This is ASN, covering Atlantic Canada.
This is ATV Headline News on the hour. Good morning, I'm Bruce Briscoe. The pilot and co-pilot involved in last week's Air Canada crash have now been suspended by the company. Pilot Don McFarlane and co-pilot Jeffrey Sear will remain off the job until the Transportation Safety Board of Canada delivers its final report on the accident at the Fredericton Airport. The two have been released from active duty until the investigation is finished sometime next year. Information retrieved from the plane's voice recorder revealed the pilot was trying to abort his scheduled landing when the aircraft spun out of control and crashed. Damage could run as high as $1 million following a train fire in Halifax last night. The blaze broke out in an empty Via Rail passenger car as the train was going along the Bedford Highway. Passengers had disembarked in Halifax, and the train was heading out of the city empty when a Via Rail worker discovered fire pouring out of a car used by smokers. Two adjoining cars were heavily damaged by smoke and water. No one was injured. Cause of that fire still under investigation. Man made off with cash after robbing the Superline gas station on Barrington Street in Halifax last night. Police say the crook used nunchucks, martial arts weapons, to threaten the clerk. Officers combed the area but had no luck in tracking down a suspect. Some tense moments in Dartmouth last night when a little boy went missing. The boy was in this stationery store on Portland Street when he suddenly disappeared. Officers were called in with search dogs, but they failed to find any trace of the youngster. And just as two buses full of search and rescue personnel got there, the little boy was found. He was inside the store all along. Apparently, he'd been hiding and then got locked in when the store closed up for the night. A Dartmouth girl is still listed in serious condition in the IWK hospital after a house fire in Dartmouth the other night. However, officials say she probably wouldn't even be alive if it weren't for her mother, who went into the burning home, pulled her out.
Marion went by him and ran into the room and grabbed Jackie and came out. Lindsay said she came out backwards with her, and she got so far they fell, or she dropped Jackie.
I was surprised when she came back because, you know, like I said, she took one step and I couldn't see her after that. It was really thick smoke.
The little Jackie McClellan, as we mentioned, is in the burn unit of the Children's Hospital. Her mother, Marion, also getting medical care. Luckily, son Keith was next door babysitting at the time. A man officials call frightening is walking the streets of a small Nova Scotia town right now because authorities cannot find an airline that's willing to fly him back to Lebanon. B.D. Hadar lives above this pizza shop in Bridgewater. He couldn't be reached for comment last night. He was ordered deported after being convicted of selling cocaine and charged with multiple counts of uttering death threats. Here's Constable Al Cunningham.
Well, we're hoping that the process will allow Mr. Hadar to be deported back to his home country as agreed upon.
Immigration officials admit they are concerned, and they say they hope to find a way to get him out of the country as quickly as possible. However, immigration authorities and police say Hadar is not being watched or monitored. A Shediac, New Brunswick man has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for manslaughter. 55-year-old Thomas Robert Zink admitted to shooting 19-year-old Stephen Casey in Casey's home last year. Zink will have to serve at least 6 years before being eligible for parole. He is also prohibited from owning firearms for the rest of his life. You might want to call it a Christmas gift for an entire community.
The National Sea Plant is no longer idle. Workers in this region are going back to work.
As many as 200 Cape Bretoners could eventually find work at the soon-to-reopen Lewisburg Fish Plant. That's not as many as there were before it closed 5 years ago, but locals say it's a good start.
This is a boost for our town. It's finally giving back the people their dignity.
We're always optimistic that something great would happen here, and it looks after today's announcement that it's probably on a rebound.
Now, the reopening could not have come at a better time. The TAGS program, which helps support those out-of-work fish workers, runs out in just a few months' time. A Moncton high-tech company is laying off 60 contract workers. Phase Atlantic says demand for its wireless communications equipment slowed down in Asia. Just last week, Phase Atlantic received $1 million interest-free loan from Ottawa for expanding the plant. In September, the New Brunswick government waived a $1 million loan because the company has created 200 jobs since 1995. A St. John councillor's plea for cleaner air has been met with some ridicule from his peers.
I'm fully in favor of global warming at the moment, Your Worship. I think we need to be...
a little warmer here.
So there we are.
Dennis Knibb was just one councillor who chuckled when Chris Waldschut suggested the city adopt a bylaw which would force motorists to turn off their cars when they're parked.
All I'm asking here is for us to consider a bylaw which would prohibit stationary vehicles from belching smoke into the air and other toxic pollutants.
But it seems absurd to me at a time when it was 17 below this morning, and here is a man proposing that there should be a regulation to discourage people from warming their cars before they get into them.
Waldschut's idea was voted down overwhelmingly by his fellow councillors. What we need is electric cars, we're told. They're quiet, they save money on fuel, and they don't pollute. Well, thanks to technological advances in batteries, EVs, as they're known, are now here, at least in California and in Arizona. However, a year after the first major manufacturer introduced them in showrooms, sales have been, shall we say, less than electrifying. Casey Weenan tells us why.
GM's EV1, leased through Saturn, has been on the market for a year with fewer than 300 on the road, well below company projections. Honda has leased just 79 EV Pluses since May.
We need to thoroughly understand consumers. We need to thoroughly understand the batteries, and we need to make sure we have a good handle on the infrastructure before we can make a decision about mass production.
EVs have limited range, about 80 miles, public charging stations are scarce, and prices are high, at least $400 a month, plus $1,000 to $2,000 for a home charging station. After an early media blitz by Saturn, EV advertising has been limited. While skeptics question automaker commitment to EVs, both GM and Honda say they're taking it slow on purpose.
I think a lot of people are learning on how to market a high-tech car like this, and I think Honda's learning a lot just like we are. And I think we'll eventually get it down right, and when we do it, we'll go aggressively after it.
Even an $80 a month payment cut failed to energize EV1 leases.
The trade-off is too much at this time. We need to have something that is very close to a gasoline vehicle in terms of convenience, refuelability, range, and everything else for the consumers to even make the decision in the showroom.
There's a compelling reason auto manufacturers are rushing to introduce electric vehicles now. The state of California, the nation's largest auto market, will require that 10% of all new vehicles sold here be pollution-free by the year 2003. That's 100,000 EVs a year in California alone. Most big automakers are working on EVs or other clean-burning cars, and other states, including New York and Massachusetts, are trying to adopt EV mandates. Casey Wyan, CNN Financial News, Santa Ana, California.
Things are changing in Somalia right now. The main factions signed an agreement in Cairo today, paving the way for federal, state, and central governments after 6 years of civil war. Part of the deal included a full ceasefire and plans for a reconciliation conference next year. Israel's foreign minister helped broker that deal. As if the snowstorms weren't enough for Californians, now they are dealing with unusually high winds. People in the San Fernando Valley are struggling this morning to keep things on the ground, but there is an upside to all of this. Snow clouds will be blown in from the region. As for Californians, winds are easier to deal with, of course, than snow. Well, here's something you don't see every day, and neither do people in Arizona, thankfully. Some heavy snow in that state yesterday made for some dangerous driving. In all, 73 vehicles slid off the road in Flagstaff. Look at this. This is Arizona. Local kids seem to enjoy all of it, though. One of the world's biggest shoe lovers is now in Boston. Imelda Marcos needs eye surgery. She's come to the States to get it. Imelda, of course, a convicted felon. She is appealing her 1993 conviction for graft as she stands accused of looting the national treasury in the Philippines, billions of dollars, along with her late husband. She calls the charges total injustice. Ferdinand Marcos was ousted from office years ago. That's when authorities discovered Imelda's legendary shoe collection. Ever wonder what it would be like to live with lions, tigers, and other big cats? Well, a woman in Connecticut just might be able to give you a sense of that. Ron Brown has details.
Bonnie Ringo knows and loves big cats. For years, she's dedicated her life to taking care of lions, tigers, and other big cats that might not have a home otherwise. Many are cast-offs from wild animal parks, carnivals, and sometimes just from people whose fetishes for felines get too big to handle.
There's no home for them. People that get them, if they don't understand the discipline that it takes, and not only the discipline with the animals, but the self-discipline that it takes. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money. Most of these cats would be dead.
Right now, there are several tigers and lions at Ringo's Wildwood Shelter. Her husband works on the outside just to finance the operation. Just paying the feed bills can get pretty expensive. There are a couple volunteers helping out. For Angela Carter, it's not only a chance to learn the ways of exotic animals, but it'll let her learn what she needs to know to be licensed to own her own lion or tiger someday.
Beautiful. They're majestic. They're wonderful. And what she's doing here is just so wonderful because most of them would be dead right now if it wasn't for them.
Not only does it take a lot of love and compassion to take care of these big cats, it also takes a lot of money to build the cages and to feed them. All these cats together eat about 100 pounds of meat a day.
Well, it is the day before Christmas, and if this doesn't get you in the spirit of the season, we don't know what will.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way.
Oh, who's that coming? This Christmas castle in Cape Breton gets bigger and brighter every year. You might want to think of it as a little piece of the North Pole right here in our region.
What do you like most about the decorations here? What's your favorite?
The manger.
The manger? What do you like about the manger?
The sheep and the camel.
What do you like most?
The church over there.
Must have.
I like the bears twirling around.
Display comes from the Furlong family, who saw the castle on display at a local mall 5 years ago and decided right then and there they wanted it. The rest, as they say, is history. Still ahead, your money, sports, and the very latest entertainment is front row center. Your complete weather forecast is coming up next. You're watching ATV Headline News right here on ASN.
I'm meteorologist Steve Weigel in the ATV Weather Center. It'll be another unsettled day across the west coast with showers expected in British Columbia. Much of the prairies can expect generally fair weather as disturbances move east over the more northern communities of that area. Most of Ontario will be mostly sunny, and southern Ontario can expect a gradual clearing after a messy weather mix in the form of snow, ice pellets, and freezing rain that was reported last night. Quebec will be mostly cloudy with flurries north and snow south. Today in the Maritimes, Cape Breton will become mostly sunny after possibly a few morning flurries, but sunshine elsewhere will be giving way to increasing cloud during the day and snow moving in from the southwest this evening. The wind will become light to moderate southeast, and afternoon temperatures will be in the range of -7 to 0. Today in Newfoundland, Labrador, and the Magdalens. Newfoundland and the Magdalens will become partly sunny by this afternoon after a few morning flurries, and most of Labrador will become mostly sunny. Afternoon temperatures in Labrador will range from -20 to -7, while Newfoundland and the Magdalens can expect -8 to -3. And the outlook for the Maritimes tomorrow, Christmas Eve. In New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island will be cloudy with periods of snow, ending in New Brunswick before evening. Nova Scotia will be cloudy with periods of snow and or rain right along the immediate coast. Thursday, Christmas Day, will be sunny in New Brunswick and flurries elsewhere. Labrador can expect sunny breaks with the chance of a flurry tomorrow and then sunny for the balance of the week, while Newfoundland can expect snow tomorrow, possibly rain in the Avalon, tapering to flurries for Christmas Day.
You're watching ATV Headline News on ASN. Still to come in your life, we'll meet some Nova Scotia firefighters who are doing their part for the true Christmas spirit this time of year. And we'll take a front row center for a new play in a rather unusual venue in St. John. Your money is coming up next.
Your Money, brought to you by Altamira Investment Services.
The strike at Canada Post lasted just over 2 weeks, but it had a devastating impact in the economy, and it was especially hard on charities. Some were brought to the brink of closing their doors, but charities like the Snowsuit Fund in Ottawa have begun to bounce back now. As ATV's Mike Murphy reports, it's continuing to spread warmth throughout the nation's capital.
In the beginning, it was supposed to be temporary. A snowsuit fund to ensure no child is left out in the cold in the nation's capital. But the need just grew, says Administrator Elizabeth Trim.
No, when we started 16 years ago, it was like 350 children that we felt there was a need for. And
we didn't think we'd be here 16 years later.
Like many of the charities laid low by the postal strike, the Snowsuit Fund is behind in donations. Volunteers are processing hundreds of requests they cannot always fill. Then there's the walk-in crowd, like Sarah Gilbert, a young mother on welfare, and her 11-month-old baby, Bailey.
How many children do you have?
Just one so far.
Just one so far, and another one on the way. So I guess you kind of need our help.
Yeah, well, what happened is that we got him a new snowsuit, and it's a 12-month, and we thought it would fit him, but he had a growth spurt, and it's getting way too short on his legs. He's got these little bare spots in here.
Ottawa is one of Canada's wealthiest cities. It's also one of the coldest.
We all need a coat. Everybody has a right to go in a cupboard and reach for their coat. And these kids just don't. Now, how could you turn a child like that away?
With the postal strike now over, the checks have begun to roll in, but they're still at about half their $700,000 goal. So far, 8,000 snowsuits have been handed out, but the fund believes they'll need about 5,000 more. Still, there's the satisfaction of ensuring that children like Bailey are properly clothed this winter.
It's good. I like it. What do you think, baby? I'm tired.
He's tired, but he's also warm and snuggly in his brand new snowsuit, a suit that's got plenty of room to grow.
Good morning, I'm Paul Hollingsworth with ATV Headline Sports. Ryan Smith scored with 10 seconds to go in the third period as the Oilers came back from 2-0 and 3-2 deficits in a 3-3 tie with the Canadiens. Doug Waite scored twice for Edmonton, Scott Thornton, Brian Savage, and Vinny Damphus with the Montreal goals. Andreas Dockel with a goal and 1 assist as the Senators beat the Islanders 4-1. Sergei Zoltak, Lance Pitlick, and Alexei Yashin also score for Ottawa. Ziggy Palffy, the only goal for New York. And the Red Wings extended their unbeaten string to 3 games with a 4-2 victory over the Boston Bruins. Anders Eriksson, Joey Kosher, Darren McCarty, and Nicholas Lidstrom scored for Detroit. Dmitry Kristich and Jason Allison, the 2 Bruin goals. And Dino Ciccarelli scored his second goal of the game with 37 seconds left. That gave Tampa Bay a 2-2 tie with St. Louis. Brett Hull gave the Blues a 2-1 lead in the second, while Pierre Turgeon also scored for St. Louis. Monday Night Football, New England beat Miami 14-12 at Pro Player Stadium. With the win, the Patriots take the AFC East title and they capture home field advantage for their rematch next weekend in the NFL playoffs. And Reggie Brown's chances of recovery are good, but it looks like his football career is over. The Detroit linebacker had spinal neck surgery after he was injured playing the Jets on Sunday. He'll wear a halo around his head for the next 3 months. Indianapolis head coach Lindy Infante was fired on Monday, just 1 day after the team finished at 3-13, and that's the worst record in the NFL. The Colts finished 9-7 last season, and they reached the playoffs for the 2nd straight year before this year's collapse. He had a 12-20 record in 2 seasons with Indy. And finally to the NBA hardwood, Glenn Rice made a tip-in at the buzzer, and that gave the Hornets an 81-79 win over the Raptors. Toronto led 66-54 with just 9 minutes to play. I'm Paul Hollingsworth, ATV Headline Sports.
Firefighters in Pictou, Nova Scotia responded to a call yesterday, a call to spread Christmas cheer. Each year, the Pictou Fire Department visits every senior in town and makes sure that Santa delivers a special package of goodies. ATV's Dan McIntosh has more on that.
It doesn't look like regulation fire gear, but Dan Hanley's uniform is standard issue for this job. For more than 10 years, members of the Pictou Fire Department have been delivering goodie bags during the holidays. The grapes, apples, bananas, and oranges are for seniors, at home or in centers for special care.
I guess because it's a nice thing to do, and it's sort of, we built into it. Now we've got a tiger by the tail, and we can't quit. And I think people like to see us. I think it brings a touch of Christmas.
Santa's helper doesn't need a sleigh or any of the reindeer. Instead, he rides in this open-cab 1930 La France fire truck. His arrival at the Maritime Oddfellows home in Pictou is met with smiles and excitement.
Oh, boy, I didn't know that. Thank you very, very much. That's nice.
Christmas is usually a happy time, but for some people,
it's not so happy. It brings back memories of people, loved ones that they had when they were home and they're no longer with them. But for the most part, here at the home, with all the support that we have in the community, it's a pretty joyous occasion.
Even the weekly bingo game takes second place to the jolly old man in the bright red suit.
Merry Christmas.
What did you think seeing Santa coming through that door there just a few moments ago?
Well, I kind of like to see Santa at this time of the year.
I was so surprised that I don't know if my eyes were open. Because, you know, I was so shocked at him coming through the door.
Pictou's firefighter Santa has pretty well finished his deliveries this year, but if he missed you, don't worry. Just like the real Santa Claus, Fire Chief George Bedford says firefighter Santa will be back again next year. In Pictou, Dan McIntosh, ATV News.
Over the Christmas holidays, St. John will play host to an impressive production of Sleeping Beauty on ice. But if you think the venue is Harbor Station, you're wrong. Sleeping Beauty on ice is going to be performed at the usually ice-free Imperial Theater. ATV's Mike Cameron tells us how it's going to be done.
Lift this thing up and we slide it into where he's right even with the end of the rink there.
This afternoon, the technical crew started building a skating rink on stage at the historic Imperial Theater.
We start out with a layer of this plastic underneath.
And then a layer of pink styrofoam. A waterbed frame goes all around it. And on top, antifreeze will be pumped through these refrigeration coils. They call Tom Johnson the Ice Meister.
This is not a rocket science, and it doesn't require a brain surgeon, but it requires very meticulous care of detail. You've got to be very careful about every little part you do, or else you could get glycol leaks and you'll have a lot of antifreeze spraying all over the place. So.
The rink measures 42 feet wide by 37 feet. At most stops, the crew will have an ice surface ready within 24 hours of arriving.
When it's completed, the Imperial stage will be supporting a total weight of over 3 tons of ice. The ice surface itself will be about 2.5 inches thick.
The crew started adding crushed ice to the stage this afternoon. Technicians will stay in the theater overnight, watering the ice surface. The first show goes Tuesday night, and the Imperial promises Sleeping Beauty like never before.
When they set it in the theater, it's very intimate. You get very, very close to the skaters, and it gives them an opportunity to have a backdrop, which is a totally different sort of theatrical experience.
The ice ballet is traveling all over North America. It has a cast and crew of 38. This is the only stop in Atlantic Canada.
I'm pushing it very low.
For Tom Johnson, this is the 31st time he's installed a rink where a rink really shouldn't be.
So once I actually see a rink that's producing and people are skating on it, then I'm a happy camper.
There are 7 shows starting tomorrow night, even a performance on Christmas Day. In St. John, Mike Cameron, ATV News.
You're watching ATV Headline News on ASN. Your next update is just half an hour away. Your next full report at 12 noon. I'm Bruce Frisco, ATV Headline News.